We're just waiting for a couple more of the invitees to join us, and we should be kicking off in the next couple of minutes. Hope you guys have all received your lunch vouchers and ordering something from Uber Eats. Obviously, if there was any problems with that, just let our team know and we'll make sure we get them through to you. For those of you just joining us, welcome, welcome. We should be kicking off in the next couple of minutes. Is anyone connecting in from Cape Town? Hugo, how's Cape Town? Because it is horrendously cold in Joburg.
Not so cold actually, nice and sunny. Not doesn't feel too wintry, if that makes sense. But
I feel like you guys sent us your weather or something.
It's definitely so, yeah. Brace yourself.
Yeah. Great. I see quite a few more joining. So welcome, guys. We'll be kicking off in the next 2 minutes or so. Just waiting for a couple more to join. If you're not aware, you do have Uber Eats vouchers, which you can use during the course of the day. So please feel free to make your orders. And if there's any issues, just let us know and our team will get you replacement vouchers. How are we sitting on numbers there, Mel?
We are at, sorry, I see almost at 50.
Okay, great. Excellent. Well, I think we are going to kick off just because we are very conscious of time. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Bytes and Bites session today. We're in partnership with Microsoft and Argantic. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brian Timperley from Turrito. I'll be your host today. And joining us is Garry Ackerman, who is the founder of Argantic, as well as Ruan, Microsoft product specialist. They'll be taking us through today's chat and demo on business process automation. From our perspective, we do like to take a data-driven approach when helping customers get the most out of their tool sets that are readily available in the Microsoft stack. So today's session is going to focus on 3 products in particular. That's going to be SharePoint, Power Apps, and Power Automate. SharePoint being the central document and data storage platform with permissions, version control, and search. Excuse me. Power Apps is used for custom forms and front-end apps and for capturing data into SharePoint lists and libraries. And then Power Automate for workflow automation like approvals, reminders, notifications, integrations, and things like that. We do try and keep these events short and to the point. So if you do have any questions during the session, feel free to either drop them into the chat and we'll jump on them at the end of the session, or we have a brief Q&A at the end and you can just raise your digital hands and we'll address any of the questions that you have at the end. As I said earlier, please enjoy the lunch vouchers that we provided to you as well. And without further ado, I will hand over to our experts. So over to you, Garry.
Thank you very much, Brian. Can you all hear me? You're receiving me loud and clear? Thank you very much. Thanks, Brian and team, and thank you everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. When it comes to the topic of business process automation, I looked back at my IT career recently, and I realized that business process automation is something that I probably got involved in as one of the very first projects that I ever did. and it's been something that has been a part of my IT solution stack even to this day. It's probably the element that gives me the most satisfaction when implementing these types of projects at customers. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. I remember one of the very first projects that I dealt with had a massive impact with the company, and I can't speak too much about who they were. We're not here to name. I don't really have permission to share their name, but I'll share you the detail around the solution that we kind of put together for them. But when it comes to business process automation, it's something quite unique that we deal with, and I still to this day engage with customers, and I walk in the door and there's some process that is still paper driven. I can't tell you that this day and age that still happens, and I get a very common quip when I query this, and it's, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's not necessarily about the business process being broken. And if you look at the definition here of what we're trying to achieve is, that business process might actually work, but is it as efficient or accurate or scalable as you need it to be? It's a very simple scenario to look into. And it's kind of like I had the same conversation with some friends the other day was, do you still drive to work in a Model T Ford, or are you, it's still fit for purpose, it still works, but there are much better options, much more efficient, much more scalable, much more accurate solutions available. For those of you that have watched or attended any of my other SharePoint presentations or SharePoint-based presentations, you would have seen this slide before. I like using it because it kind of marks the same time. I mean, apart from some of the elements at the very beginning of this timeline, I've built solutions using almost every other variant on this diagram. And for those of you who've attended other SharePoint sessions, you would have seen this before. What I wanted to highlight today was, if you look at that 2001 SharePoint Team Services variant, that was the very first version of SharePoint that I really started to use and get really excited about. It was at that stage that I realized that SharePoint could really provide a foundation, a fantastic foundation for business process automation. And that customer I'm speaking about was quite a large bank, very well-known bank. They're still around today. They just launched a vehicle asset finance division, but on a shoestring budget for whatever reason. And the entire division was being run, the entire process and division was being run out of a single file share on a file server. And it was chaos. And they asked us to help them implement a very low-cost solution. I think they were still very much a proof of concept at that stage. So business was kind of feeding them a little bit of money just to see if it was actually going to work. So I built them a SharePoint's Team Services-based solution, ingested all the information that was in the file share, and they proceeded to use it as the basis of their vehicle asset finance business process automation. I can proudly say for another 5.5 years after I implemented it. And it worked really, really well. So yeah, that's a bit of a notch in both my belt and in also SharePoint as a platform. It's around about that 2008, 2010, 2007 area where Microsoft introduced two very key pivotal components as well, namely a built-in workflow engine and also InfoPath. Both of those are forerunners to what we now know as Power Apps and Power Automate. So it's quite important on this timeline to see the evolution of the tools that we're going to use to build these solutions comes from the early days of SharePoint. I'm very pleased to say that today we're going to be doing more show than tell, and to get us started around this showing rather than telling, we're going to be building some rather rudimentary solutions to start with, and then unpacking something, more and more complicated and sophisticated with each step that we go. And we're hoping to be able to show you that even, with the tools that most companies have in their toolbox already, and possibly the addition of one or two little either external things or premium licenses, you can achieve a great deal when building robust business process solutions. The foundation of the tools, however, as Brian correctly said, is Power Apps, which you can see the symbol for on the left, Power Automate in the middle, and SharePoint on the right. These tools, they have various license flavors, but there is a version of them available in even the most basic of business package or Office 365 or Microsoft 365 business or enterprise package. So there's really a very easy starting point for any organization that already has an Office 365 or Microsoft 365 subscription to get started and build out from very simple business processes to quite robust and sophisticated processes. So to get started, I'm going to show you two quick demos on the simple end of the equation, just to show you the impact that you can have without investing too much time and money. And the two solutions I'm going to show you, one is a very simple expense claims process, which I can proudly say is something that we implemented at Argantic a few years ago, and we're still using to this day. It's one of those things where it's quite efficient. There's probably one little two tweaks we could do to it, but to be honest with you, it works like a dream. The second one I'm going to show you is by adding a single Power Automate premium license. And this is a sort of a design philosophy that we use, is that we get most customers just to create a single account that is used to design and execute the flows. And then by giving the premium license to just that account, you can execute wonderful things. And I'm going to show you a very simple document process that outputs a PDF. And this one is one of the most common requests that we have. A variety of business processes, regardless of how complicated they get around the workflows, the output of taking a template, pre-populating the template, and outputting a PDF is one of the most common requests that we have. Ironically, the generation of the PDF is not what you need the premium license for. You need it to be able to use the word automation around a template. That means the mail merge functionality. And I'll show you that in the demo quick. Right, so I'm going to stop sharing the presentation, and I'm going to get into, just got to find out which one it is, this one. At Argantic, we use these tools, and in this case, it's a basic SharePoint environment to enable our expense claim process. And it's a very simple thing that we've designed. What happens is we use a standard SharePoint form. And in this case, I'm going to say just demo expense claim. Who's it for? At Argantic, you can actually have this pre-populate the name. But at Argantic, we have some people that can load, sorry, typing has left the building, can load the expense claims for other people. Test expense claim. And we can select approver. Now, I'm going to...
Sorry, Garry, are you showing something at the moment?
Oh, sorry. That is correct. Sorry.
Cool.
Apologies, everybody. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's come up now.
There we go. We have from a demo perspective, I'm the only person in the company that is allowed to have myself as an approver. In most organizations, that would be a straight up audit violation. And you can then upload attachments from as a receipt or proof of expense claim. And I'll show you a couple in a moment. We use things like, I'm just going to include one of these very quickly. Uploads it. And we just have a process that we, all states start in a draft state, so that allows you to save and edit and go back into it without triggering any workflows. But the minute I change the status to new, and I send this off it goes. It will create an email, send me an email saying that my expense claim has been up to be paid. And always go back and have a look at the entire audit trail, and it was then when it was approved and when it was paid. A very simple business process using just SharePoint and Power Automate. So this is a very cool example of something that we use ourselves. Now, to step it up in complexity, I'm going to now show you a document process. I've just got to find which one of these it is. As you can see, we've got quite a few demos available today. Sorry. So we'll introduce you more to this fictitious company called Argantic Couriers a little later on. It's a demo environment we've built for a very specific customer presentation, but we've just continued to use it as the foundation of all the SharePoint demos we do because it's actually so cool. Ruan will get into that a little bit later in a much more sophisticated type process. But in this situation, what I have is I had a very specific request from a customer where they're saying they want to be able to send out forms to customers. And in this case, it's forms that they either need to fill out from PDF or be able to print and fill out. I know having an online form would really solve that problem, but the sophistication or the IT readiness of the people that needed to receive these forms beyond email was very limited. So it had to generate a document from a template and send it out to a bunch of people. And I needed to just highlight or show typically how simple something like this could be. So what we have is in a document.
Sorry, Garry, I'm not.
I'm just refreshing.
Sorry, Garry, just hang on one sec. I'm not sure if it's just for certain users, but you're definitely breaking up quite a bit on my side.
Yeah, mine as well.
Okay, I think it might be, if you can just start that sentence from where you were.
Okay, sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we have had some internet cable interesting events in wilderness recently, and this entire part of the world is funneled through wilderness, so it gets interesting. So I have a document in a document library that is a template that the customer wants to send out, and this template simply looks like this. It's got a number of fields with existing information that's pulled from a SharePoint SharePoint list or a database. And that information is then pre-populated into the document, and the customer then either fills in the new information using the PDF fill and sign, or they print it out and fill it in by hand. So it's just a very simple process to show you that we can use a Power Automate flow, a document library, and a SharePoint list to create this type of process. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trigger the flow, and then I'm going to take you through the steps that it goes through to generate the document. That's just connecting in the background, and then I'm going to hit run flow. So now if I go to the flow Power Automate itself and I refresh this list of flows, you'll see there is one that is running. Oh, it's the one that has failed. I probably did something wrong. So you can see I've demonstrated this thing about 300 times. Oh, very quickly. I need to just clean up a previous, apologies guys. I just want to clean up something quickly because I had tested this just before. And it's going to upload some documents, and it's saying that those documents are already there. So very quickly, just rerun that flow. This is the cool thing about flow itself, is you have the ability to resubmit failed, and you can ignore that. That's the old error message that's at the top. It now runs through, and you'll see it's got a trigger process coming from SharePoint, gets the item, populates a Word template, adds the docx document to SharePoint itself, creates a temporary document in OneDrive, and this is how you create PDFs, guys, is you use OneDrive's native conversion functionality to do this. It then converts the document to PDF, adds the PDF back to the SharePoint transaction or record, sends an email, and then deletes the file from OneDrive. You can leave the file on OneDrive if you want to. The email will typically look like this, and you can see I've now received the PDF with the body of the email in it. And if I go back to the document library, you will now see that if I go back to the record itself, it has uploaded both the PDF and the docx files from the process itself. So you can now refer back to the original documentation that was sent out to the people. Now, in this specific case, you wouldn't specifically need those forms back in the record itself, but we have quite a few customers that are asking for document-driven processes where the documentation that is actually generated for specific customers is then actually stored as a record along with the original transaction. So while in this specific case, storing the documents along with the transaction might not be that useful, it's just demonstrating a capability. So there's two very simple business process automation components or solutions that I've just demonstrated in its simplest of forms, but it's something that very often customers are asking for, even in the, just to automate a very simple process within the organizations. And it's a very good place to actually get started. So let me jump now into the next demo we're going to do. And now we're going to throw in a little bit more complexity. And when I say a little bit more, I should have actually just said a whole lot more. I showed you already a little piece of the site, the SharePoint site, around a fictitious company called Argantic Couriers. And as I mentioned, this was a demo platform that we built for a customer just to demo some capability. But we've now extended it quite a bit to encompass and include recommendations or requests from other customers. And it's now our standard sort of demo area. I'm going to ask Ruan to in a minute just start the presentation around Argantic Couriers, and we've got some quite cool things to show you. But most notably, you'll see that we've used quite a few of the elements that you get along with Microsoft 365 or Office 365 type packages. But most importantly, and very topically for this day and age, we've included an AI component. And Ruan can get into the detail of how that's done. Ruan, you can take over.
Thank you very much, Garry. So let's begin. Someone can just confirm that my screen is sharing.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
So we start again, and hello from my side, just specifically, just an ordinary dev from Argantic. So we start again at our Argantic Couriers company, obviously fictitious. Please don't ask us to ship anything. We don't actually know anything about shipping directly, but Argantic Couriers wanted a process, fictionally, of course, to produce estimate requests. They're being flooded with a wonderful problem of having way too many estimate requests. And so we need to deal with that somehow. Here I am in my personal email, so ruanh@argantic. And I also, for the purpose of this demo, have access to a shared mailbox called packages@argantic.co.za. And packages@argantic is the standard email address that clients are requested to send their shipping estimate requests to. So we are very quickly going to send 3 emails to the shipping requests email, so packages@argantic. 2 of them are the same in many aspects. So let me just open them both on the screen here. And they say, "Dear Argantic Shipping, please can you send me an estimated price to ship a package to George, South Africa by air. The package is 50 by 20 by 30. I just typed this up to save time in the meeting, so the email does not have to have this exact format. But I typed it out, so you don't have to watch me type. Now, let's send this off. Everything here seems correct, and we've got all the information. And we're sending it to that email. But let's send another one where we leave out the by air. We say that, well, this client made the mistake. Hi? Sorry, somebody's microphone is on. Anyway, I'll continue. The client made the mistake of leaving out. They didn't specify, do I want to ship by air or by sea? So now, our system needs to be able to handle that. So we're going to send this off as well. And then we're going to send off a third email to packages at Argantic. Puppies for sale. Do you need a puppy? Of course you do. What's wrong with you? Not having a puppy could be hurting you mentally and socially. So we'll send that off as well. So we got 3 emails coming in to this shared mailbox. And we see that these 2 are here already. Now, what happens when these emails get sent? So this is where the magic happens. There is something in Power Automate. You can have something called a shared mailbox trigger. So when you create a new flow, flows can be triggered in many different ways. You can trigger a flow on when an item is created in a list, when a document is received. You can trigger flows manually, as Garry demonstrated. This flow is created to run when a mail is received by this particular shared mailbox. So it's not instant, as in that particular moment, but we can see 11 seconds ago, there's 3 emails that were sent. So let's open the first one. And let's see what happened here. So very simply, when an email is sent to the shared mailbox, we convert the HTML body to text so that it's kind of easy to read for a human and a bot. We send the request to an AI agent. The AI, well, when I say AI bot, what's used here is Azure OpenAI. So it's an OpenAI model deployed on Microsoft Azure. The model has 3 functions. The model responds with, this is an unrelated email. So optionally, it can be an unrelated email. It can be a valid process estimate, or it can be a process estimate, but the client did not provide all the information. So we happen to open the flow where it was the process estimate. We can see that the model was able to get all the correct data here. We got our length, width, height of our thing. We're supposed to go to George, supposed to go to South Africa. The weight unit is kilograms because I've instructed the bot to accept kilograms and grams. Distance units of centimeters. I think centimeters and millimeters, and we can ship by air or sea. Then I simply create a quote request. I'm going to show you where that is now, and I send an email back. If I open my email from where I sent these emails, I got a response to the one with missing information. Okay. I didn't specify whether I want to send by air or by sea, and I simply got the email back that said, hey, can you provide all the correct information? So that is, I want to show you which leg. That would be this one. I sent the email back to the person that sent the shipping request. But I got another email as part of the SharePoint process. Now this is, please forgive this part. I am wearing 2 hats here. I'm both the sender and the person who has to review the package. Obviously, if you build a solution like this, these would be 2 different people, right? As the person having to review the package, I get an email and I'm told I can go process that. What happened to the third email? So this is a valid process, one that requests more information. Well, the third email is not even in the inbox anymore. It's now been archived. The AI read it and said, hey, we're not supposed to be doing anything with puppies. So that went into archive. Obviously, you can do anything with this that you want. You can, typically you don't respond to spam, but perhaps you can forward it to someone. You can do anything in this flow that you want to do. So now, what does this actually look like in SharePoint? So I'm in Argantic Couriers now. Now I'm a sales guy at Argantic Couriers. Obviously, we don't want AI to run our entire life, right? Because it does make mistakes. So I walk in the day, and I want to process estimate requests. And here it is. Here's the estimate request. I can see the email body. I can see a bit more information. I can see AI extracted data. I'm going to slow down for 30 seconds. Some of you are very familiar with SharePoint. Some of you might be a bit less familiar with SharePoint. But it's just basically, imagine it an Excel table with extra functionality, right? We've got a status with various acceptable fields. This estimate is assigned to a certain person. That person has to process it. We've got a freight type. We got text fields. So imagine an Excel table, right? If I open this, I can now process this estimate. I can see that this is the email that came in. I can see that my process, which had an AI agent as part of the process, I can check the data that the agent filled in. The status is currently in draft. The freight type is air. And, you don't have to do this, but I like to add the AI extracted data for record purposes so that we can go back and we can check, did the AI do a good job or did it not? I reviewed this, and as a salesperson, I'm happy to flag this as ready to process by system. Done. That's my job, just to review so that AI doesn't end up, costing us a lot of money by giving the wrong, processing the wrong values and so forth. So now there's another trigger. If I may show you here, I've got another flow. This flow has a different trigger on item modified. And while this runs, I'm actually going to show you. I'm going to take the plunge and just quickly show you. If you've never played with Power Automate flows before, it's very much, you don't have to be a software developer by trade to get started. There's a certain box here. When an item is created or modified, you pick your site address, you pick your list name. Some of you, I'm boring to sleep. Some of you, I'm hoping this is useful. But for this flow, I did a similar thing. This flow, again, has 3 potential steps. Now I'm in the edit mode now, so I can actually edit these steps. In the list item, I was able to select that this is spam. So let's say the AI missed it. I can mark it as spam. It will delete the item. I can say I need more information from the customer. Now with the AI in front, these two don't actually run anymore, but they are there. So if I mark it as requiring more information, it'll send an email off to the customer and request more information. If it's ready to process, then there's a couple of steps it goes through. It updates the item. It gets the prices. So the prices for packages in our fictitious company is set here. Me as a salesperson, normally wouldn't have access to this page, but I've got a place where I got my price per square centimeter for air, price per kilogram for air, and the same for C. Those prices are set here in SharePoint. And the flow uses those prices, gets them, and ultimately, we see here it populates an invoice template, adds the invoice template to the item and gets back to the customer. So if I go back to my own email, I can see here that I received my shipping estimate, me as in the person who wants to ship an item. And I can open my shipping estimate, and a lot of this is just for demo, but the dimensions here, that were provided by the AI initially and checked by the human has been filled in. The package was calculated using the prices provided and so forth. So we have a process that does a little bit more of the manual work for you, and a process with some controls built in, and all in SharePoint. This is just a column, just a list where you specify your prices. Now, one or two quick further demos. So let's say I put on the hat of the auditor. You know, a couple of months from now, I want to see what happened to these list items. You know, what processes did it go through? What changes were made? I can, with every SharePoint list item, and again, some of you, I apologize, I'm boring you to death, but it's pertinent. I can, with any list item, look at the version history. And there's ways to query it programmatically as well, but I can see exactly date, time, who did what, when. Another thing you need to know, these all mention modified by me because I'm the author of the flow. Typically, it should say modified by this flow account. So then you even know the flow made this change, the human made this change. If anybody else came and made a change, you have an entire audit trail. And last, before I field if there's any questions for me, I just built a small demo. This isn't hooked up right now, but it's something you can do in SharePoint. You can build these little web parts, and they can gather your data immediately from estimate requests. And you can build your nice graphs. So let's say as the sales manager, you can see how long did it take you to respond to or how long did it take the human to process and actually get that estimate back to the client. You know, 34% was within 1 hour, 44% was within 2 hours. That's really the limit. We'd really like to be faster than that, or else we're losing business. 21% is 2 hours or more, and then we got to go find out who was it, and we can see who's the culprit in our own company, right? Because this guy, Ruan, he's terrible. You can have your documents right here. You can run your processes. You can put AI guardrails around it and put it intelligently in your workflow where it makes sense. And it all starts, I would say, with a simple SharePoint list and building your first flow in Power Automate. And with that, I'll hand back to Garry.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruan. Thank you very much. I'll take the share back. There we go. Can you all see me and hear me? See the presentation?
Yep.
Oh, good. Right. So thank you very much. That's showing something a little bit more complicated, but by and large, using tools that are available within the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 tool set, and a little bit of a venture into the Azure side of things to include sort of AI capability. That is very quickly becoming one of our top requests is, rather than allowing AI, because we don't believe AI is quite ready yet to drive entire sort of processes, but it's very useful when it's used in a compartmentalized task within those processes. And this is how you go about using it. It's really cool. Thank you, Ruan. And let me just click there. Right, third demo. As we've stepped through this level of complexity and we've stuck largely within the Microsoft realm, now I want to take a little bit of a step out of the Microsoft realm and show you some solutions that I've built for some customers and some organizations where sometimes it's just better to step outside and use an external tool or an external capability. And sometimes you just don't have a choice. You've got maybe a ERP or a financial system that is dedicated to that purpose and is really good at it, but very often they don't provide you with robust tools around business process automation. And if they do, they're probably not fit for purpose, or they're very expensive. But either way, there's a big business case to stepping out of a system and stepping back in again to actually perform business process tasks outside of the pure function of that element. So I'm going to show you. The first one is for an organization called QASA. For those of you who don't know who they are, they're Quadriplegic Association of South Africa, started and run for a long time by Ari Searles. It's an organization that both Turrito and Argantic look after in a number of different ways. We assist them with their mission, and we're very tied to their cause, and we assist them from a technology perspective. And I was recently asked to help them build a sort of centralized database of their membership. Their membership was being run by Excel. It's a very common scenario that we find with a lot of customers, is that a lot of business processes, even if they're not driven on paper, the very first step is to put the process in Excel somehow. And that is fit for purpose for a while, but then it starts to run into a bit of a problem. Data cleanliness becomes an issue, reusability, duplication, etc., etc. So we built them a very nice solution. But what was really key about this was it used a product called Cognitoform, which is a product that we discovered a few years ago and have continued to use as part of our business process applications and solutions to this day. It is inexpensive, but wildly powerful. One of the reasons why we had to step outside of the Microsoft realm for this type of function is that when Microsoft released the very first version of SharePoint Online, they did allow sort of anonymous access to certain components in SharePoint, and they ran it for about a year, but then immediately started to run into all sorts of security problems. And they solved the problem by shutting down the capability, which then creates the problem that if you are trying to collect information from the public or people that are not authenticated against your Entra ID or your Active Directory, you've got a bit of an issue. Cognitoform solves that problem incredibly well, and I'll show you how we built that one. The second one is a bit of a purchase order process. I was asking the team over the last 20 years, what is the most common process that we've had to build solutions around, and it's always a purchase order process. The latest one that we did was we converted the company from the traditional white, yellow, and pink page book, where different pages had to end up in different places, but it was just crazy how often purchase order requisitions just got lost or ended up on someone's desk who was on leave, and it just created havoc. And it had a massive impact on their business. So I'm going to show you the demo that I showed them. I'm not going to show you their system because that's obviously their IP, but the demo that I showed them or that I built for them, just to give you an idea of how that type of solution is built. So let me jump into that quickly. There we go. So I'm going to go to QASA. QASA, as I told you before, is a Quadriplegic Association of South Africa, and I built a member database for them. And you'll see here, this is just busy refreshing. Membership database, I'm not showing you the active members, there's obviously private information there, but the whole process starts with the member filling out a form. And the form, the Cognitoform capability that's available is pretty cool in terms of being able to put really sophisticated and functional forms together that are public facing, but they connect into the SharePoint environment using Power Automate. So, it's kind of secure from start to finish, but it still has that front facing element. Now, you may ask the question, Microsoft has made their Forms product available now as well as a solution to front-ending SharePoint environments. I can tell you that it's nowhere near as functional as Cognitoform. It can be used in very simplistic solutions, but it's designed more as a survey and quiz type platform, whereas Cognitoform is designed primarily as a form product. So I've gone ahead and pre-filled some of the form detail. You don't really want to see me typing out. We fill out all the details, and what's really nice is it comes with a signature capability as well. And when I hit submit, a flow is triggered. So you get the flow is triggered. And in this case, you don't really have to wait for it, because these types of external flows, the triggering is almost instantaneous. I just need this to refresh. So it's coming up as we speak. And I'll show you the execution the execution plan. It says the flow ran successfully. That's pretty cool. There we go. So now you'll see there was a new entry created, and you'll see there's a little Cognito Forms. So Cognito Forms have designed their connectors and trigger mechanisms inside of Power Automate already, and you can then use them and attach this to your Cognito Form tenant, so that when somebody fills in a specific form, it triggers this specific Power Automate flow. I then upload the document, and I've got, this is for those of you that started using Flow many years ago. This is probably the most interesting component, and that is a try create and what to do when it's failed. In this case, what I'm trying to catch is whether there is a duplicate in the environment, and so it's not actually generating an error here. It's just saying to me that there is already a document. So it tries to create the item, and if it fails, I check to see if it is a specific situation where it is a duplicate that is in play. And if it isn't, it then goes ahead and creates the record and adds the original form that the person signed back to the members database. So if I now go and refresh this, my record that I just filled in should be there. And there you go. You can see it. And all the detail has been brought through. What's really cool, though, is if you go into the record itself and you go down, you'll see it has included the original form that I filled in with the detail on it. So it's a record of what I actually filled in with my signature in the bottom. And by the way, this conforms to all sorts of standards. So, and I don't have it on hand, but I can supply it to you. But this is legally acceptable, almost all countries worldwide. So that's a very nice demo to show how we've used an external component in the form of Cognito Form to get data from the public, from the public unauthenticated environment into an environment where data needs to be protected. Now, the last demo that I'm going to show you is it's quite a bit more complicated than that. I'm going to go back to our dear friend Argantic Couriers. Now, I may just need to sign in again on one of the connectors, because in the demo environment, I'm not using persistent authentication at this point. It's just for demo purposes. So I do need to go and refresh that connection every now and then. In a production environment, you wouldn't build it like that. The connection would be persistent, and it would use more robust security elements to ensure that you're connected the two environments together securely. But this is actually a real situation that we've dealt with. One of our colleagues, Chris, had a notebook stolen out of his while he was on holiday, and we needed to get a replacement. So I thought we would I'd show you this platform using that scenario. And I've gone and pre-populated a form. And in this case, you'll see that the format changes considerably. And that's because we've used Power Automate to create, not Power Automate, sorry, Power Apps to create the edit and view forms inside of SharePoint. So it is the tool that you can use to change the default forms that are presented to you from a list or a document library, so that you can modify and present it the way you want to. You get quite a bit more control from a Power Apps perspective than you do from a standard function inside of SharePoint. And in this case, you can see what I've done here is I've just filled in certain information. We've got this product category in the one customer we built this type of solution for. This product category linked to departmental budgets as well. So it's got quite a bit more of a complicated solution there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on. The original laptop was a Lenovo Flex, and at the time it was bought 3 or 4 years ago. It was a relatively inexpensive device. But when we went and got a quote to see what it was going to cost, nowadays, as an equivalent upgrade, it was almost double the price. So Chris was asked to take a lesser device. So we got quotes on Dell, HP, and the Lenovo Flex. And you can see here, it has the option to attach the files as quotes so that these circulate along with this purchase order requisition. Now, this would normally go through an approval workflow, but we've shown those to death in the past. So we're just going to skip that whole process, because this demo is more about linking to an external system than anything else. So now that I've ready to submit my purchase order with the attached quotes and the motivation for why this purchase order is required, I'm just going to change the status to new, and I'm going to save this. and off it goes. Sorry, I just want to make sure that that was new. Sorry, I think I scrolled the mouse. New. Save. There we go. Right. Now, what happens is we've got a trigger inside of Flow, and I'll show you an example of one here. It does take a minute or two to fire in the background, but you'll see that when an item is created or modified, I very quickly look for whether this has been processed or not, whether this is a new record or whether it's something that's already been done. If it has been processed before, it goes and creates a purchase order using a custom connector in Power Automate that I have created. It then strips out the response, and it says a for each loop, but there's actually only one item that comes back. It sets the PO number, and it writes the PO number back to the document, the purchase order requisition that we've created, and changes the status to complete. If I now go and look at 0, you will see there is a, let me just refresh this because there could actually be 2 of them there. There we go. You can see there's a PO that has been created inside of 0. And this is a dummy 0 company, by the way, and it's sitting in a status of draft. So now the financial people can take this over. There might be additional information they want to provide. If you look at that, it's as it says, there might be some additional information. It does the allocation to the correct account. It works out the VAT, and it also comes with a bit of a audit trail at the bottom as well to show you that it was system generated and received through the API from Argantic Demo. So that means that the credibility of this has been maintained from start to finish. And if I go back, you'll see it's added the PO number back to the record, wasn't there before, and it has updated the status of this. I think we just double check. I think it actually, yeah, there it's updated it to complete. And as we've indicated before, you can now go and look at the version history of this transaction from start to finish, and you can see, and just as Ruan indicated, because we're the only ones doing the demo and we actually generated the flow itself, it's all under my name, but it would actually belong elsewhere. But you'd actually see exactly who interacted with these records as it went through its approval process, and you'll also see where the flow itself actually completed processes. So yeah, there should be 2 of them now, I think. If I just go back, it did fire in the background. Yeah, there's the second one, and it's updated it now with PO15. So this will take a little bit of time to refresh. So as you can see now, yet again, this is not an input part of the process. This is an output part of the process. So we've created a purchase order in a financial system. You can also work backwards using triggers so that if things happen in 0, that external process or business process can be run outside of 0 or whatever system you're working at. There's just certain standards that need to be maintained. And in this case, the key word is an OAuth web interface. And are we going to wait till the end for questions, Brian, or do we want to take them now?
Yeah, I think we've got a couple of minutes left for questions. Is there more demos that you?
Yeah, let me just finish off quickly. Somebody put their hand up, so I just wanted to know whether. But anyway, let me just finish off quickly, and then we can get into the demos themselves.
Perfect.
So I just need to bring this back. Stop sharing. Right. Let me get my presentation back. Second, I just want to share the presentation.
Lola, I think you can make a note of your question, and we will take it as the first one as soon as we go to the Q&A.
Awesomeness. Right, let me fire this up and we can finish this off. Right, so that's showing third-party integration. So we got to the point where we started out really simple. We've gotten a little bit more sophisticated, and now we've got to the point where we're interacting with third-party products as well to build out these types of processes. And you get to the point where you can actually build some really, really cool things. And I always, this to me is such a good quote from the movie Jurassic Park by the mathematician character, Dr. Ian Malcolm, basically summarizing, saying, you get so enthusiastically wrapped up in the idea of what you can do that you don't really take the time to think about whether you should. And this, in as much as the tools that I've shown you are awesome for the processes that we've built, there is a place for them, and there's also a place for more sophisticated tools and more dev-oriented tools. And we've learned this to, even within Argantic, but that example I gave you earlier where we built a purchase order system for a school. In the initial part of when we built this, and the information we were given by the customer was that we were talking about 1,000 to 2,000 purchase requisitions a year. And that is perfectly acceptable in the SharePoint world. For those of you that understand the limits of SharePoint, the SharePoint list can technically hold 33 million items in it, but it has got a limitation on it called a list view threshold of 5,000 items. That means no individual query must produce more than 5,000 items to avoid locking the tables in the background. And what SharePoint does to mitigate that is it pages your responses, which means when you are driving a transaction-based business process automation, the amount of work you're going to have to do to overcome those limitations means you're not actually using the right platform anymore. It's going to be more expensive for you to continue using that platform, SharePoint as the platform, than to consider the next thing that I'll show you. Now, there's two ways you get to that point. One is you in good faith build a business process with the best information that was available at the time, and you discover yourself constantly running into those limitations later on. That's the point at which you need to make a decision about upgrading that Power App, SharePoint, Power Automate solution into something that's a little bit more robust. And I'll show you what that solution looks like. The other part is doing it from the outset. And this is where talking to somebody like us can really help you if you want to embark on using these platforms for that type of function. Just have a discussion with us, and we will share our expertise with you and knowledge and experience to be able to guide you on whether it is the right way to go or whether you should be considering the alternative. And for those of you that are wondering, the alternative is, so the upgrade to Power Apps in this scenario is Azure Web Apps. The upgrade to Power Automate is Azure Logic Apps, and the upgrade to SharePoint is an Azure SQL database. You can use another database as well. It's not a huge deal, but we just prefer to use SQL. In the case of the school, when we ran into that problem, we eventually found out they were doing upwards of 10,000 procurement requests. Don't ask me what that was all about, but it was quite something. And we made the decision mid-year, to pivot them out of a SharePoint-based business process automation platform, and we built it on this type of environment. The final result, by the way, using the components, and it's running perfectly in the environment, cost them about 800 Rand a month in Azure spend. So one last thing before I hand over back to Q&A, and I see time is running out. Everybody that's using SharePoint as a platform from a content management or a business process automation platform, please just remember, do not unleash AI in your environment until you've ensured that your environment is Copilot or AI ready. If you want to know more about what that means, please reach out to your Turrito contact, and they are more than happy to set up a counseling or a consulting session or a discussion around what this actually means and what the importance of having these guardrails in place means as well. So from me, that's it. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, let's see if we can deal with some Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Garry. Thanks, Ruan. So yeah, we've got a couple of minutes for Q&A. Lola, do you want to kick us off with your question?
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to ask about Power Automate and Power Apps because I'm struggling a little bit on adding a button as a trigger from Power Apps that will, when the button is clicked, it will go to a Power Automate flow that allows us the user's response to be saved on a SharePoint file and then send an email.
Yeah, look, we'd have to look at your specific situation. That is supposed to work. That doesn't sound very complicated at all. What I'd recommend we do is we just set up some time to have a look at your scenario, and we can get that sorted for you.
No problem.
Let's set up a discussion around how we can help you there. That's not a difficult thing to do.
Thank you.
Right. We'll get your account manager to schedule that for you, Lola. No problem at all. Then we've got another hand up. I think it's Martin.
Hi. Sorry, hi everybody. So I just wanted to find out, obviously, cost seems to be on most businesses on the tips of their tongues these days, especially, with the economic environment that we find ourselves in these days. So business standard subscriptions is what we have. So if I had to go ahead and start using Power Apps and Power Automate, I think it was mentioned in the beginning, the cost to I would need a license. Yeah.
Those licenses are included in your subscription, the basic versions of those products, and you can get started immediately. You don't need anything else.
So nothing to outlay from the off.
No, just as I said, though, I found that the step up to one additional Power Automate Premium will actually pay for itself in minutes, because it will allow you to use functionality that if you try and build it just using the simple basic elements, it actually costs you more in time than to just upgrade one license to Power Automate Premium.
Okay. So as we are at the moment in my organization, we're ready to go with some of the simpler benefits and solutions.
Exactly.
Okay, sweet. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, that's one of the important things, is that obviously you'll be capable of doing kind of the entry stuff to get this work going and get value from it. And then as you build up and as you need more advanced capabilities, then you can obviously make a decision whether you upgrade those individual ones or whether you want to upgrade your overall subscription to something like the premium business premium version or something like that. And we'll be able to guide you along that journey as well. So no problem at all.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. I'm happy to hear that.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Martin. Next up, Jason.
How's it? How are you?
Excellent.
Hey, Jason.
Good. Thanks. All right. So I like that little presentation there with the integration into the ERP systems. You guys are coming to see me, I think, next week with Kishan. Maybe we can look into it a little bit more, but just a little background. We're obviously using Sage Evolution, and every module costs an arm and a leg. Every user registration, that's another extra arm and a leg for that. So we're looking to integrate like an asset management module into our system, but also at the same time saving us a bit of money. So I think I'm quite interested to speak to you guys about how we can do that, so that we can do it maybe off the Sage platform onto a different system, then integrate it into Sage, whereas I don't need to purchase licenses and different types of modules, so that it can talk to Sage. I mean, maybe the modules I'll probably need so that we can make it all work together, but I've got a lot of different sites and maybe, 30 users that would need to log in at once and update the system, which obviously takes up time on my server, it takes up space on my server, and and then I have to buy each person that license to access Sage. So yeah, I think
It's a very common use case, Jason. We very often deal with a lot of companies, and even in years ago, there's certain SAP does what it does, but there's certain business processes, while they attempt to do them in SAP, are not great, and then you also incur all of the licensing fees at the same time. So we work with a lot of customers where you hand off the business process to an external system, do something, and hand the result back. That's very often the type of flow that we deal with. Perfect.
Okay,
we'll explore that further next week.
Thank you.
Awesomeness.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to raise your hand. We are aware that
there is a question in the chat from Usha.
Okay, let's have a look here. Okay, so yeah, there was a question earlier with regards to the expense claims. I think that was one of the earlier demos. Can we have external consultants submit claims that has to go through an internal approval process before being paid?
Yes. Two ways to do that. One is you can either use something like Cognito Form to facilitate anonymous if you need to, but SharePoint does allow external email addresses to authenticate against a table or a document library, so that people that are what they call guests can actually participate in the business process. So absolutely. I prefer the second one because you can then actually identify who the person is by the email address that they're registered with.
Excellent. Thank you, Garry. Great. We are aware that it's just run over time, so if you do need to rush, we totally understand. Thank you guys for joining us, and please do look out for the other sessions that we're going to be running in the near future. Garry, Ruan, thank you guys again for the prezo and the demos. And yeah, if there's any other questions straight after the session, or if something pops in your mind that you didn't think of during, then please feel free to reach out to one of your account managers. We're very happy to lean in and assist you guys wherever you need it. And enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy the lunch, guys. Have a good day.
Take it easy.
Cheerio. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Cheers,
Go
bye.
well. Bye-bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Bye.
bye.
Bye-bye now.